My name is Vinamra, popularly known as Vin, and I run a company called Brand Hero. So at Brand Hero, we end up helping startups and organizations leverage the power of design. So when I say design, it's definitely inclusive of design and marketing, which is also inevitable. So we provide design and marketing services to startups and help them leverage those strategies for their own growth in the best possible way. So today I'm going to be talking about a topic called digital branding. So not to confuse it with the core branding aspect, that's much larger a thing. So what is most commonly mistaken as digital marketing? Whenever I've been talking about this topic, people ended up taking it as digital marketing is related or digital branding. So, but this is not the case here. So I want to clarify this here that digital. I'm talking about digital branding, which is purely about representing your brand on the internet. So that's why I've broken this term into two, which is digital and branding. So this is the Wikipedia definition below, which is also very similar to what I'm going to be saying. So digital is the all the online media, all the internet online, and the branding is your representation of your particular business or brand. So we'll be talking about what are the do's and don'ts, what you should be doing, what is something which you should not be missing. At a larger picture, I would say, if you want to represent your brand on online media, in online media or on internet, so what are the things you should be doing and not missing out on? It is something. Okay, I'll come to that in the next one. So typically, I mean, the business is here to do business, right? To do sale or to find customers, or to find probably people to interact or collaborate with for their business. So a typical journey of any customer or a user is, how do? You end up finding that person somewhere, you end up meeting that person, then you know him more, and potentially that can convert into your customer or a collaborator. So these are very true in the offline world also, and these are very true in the online world also. Typically, what happens, we find and meet through online platforms. We find them through Instagram, LinkedIn, social media, and webinars and the events, online meetups, things like that. But when they get to know more, when the part of branding comes in, where they end up wanting to know about you more. So you take them to say your website, you give them your business card. That is more of your knowing, more of your brand coming in there, like it, more of your, what you do is to be told to them. And then when they know deeper, when they know more, there's some talking they do with you, and then converting happens. So branding part is essentially your showcase to them, and digital part is basically finding them and meeting them. Of course, there is a huge overlap, but I am trying to divide it in a certain way that it looks like a process, and and then that's kind of be broken into actionable points later, and how we should be really doing it. And the primary focus of today's presentation will be on the branding part of it, as to how to showcase your brand digitally. A lot of businesses I work with, they end up, it is, if I give an analogy, which is an offline analogy, it is like you meet someone in a networking event and you call them to your office. Would you like to call someone to your office when the plaster work is not pending, or maybe it is half built? Not right. So you would like to first make sure that your office is well built, your house is well built before you invite a guest into it, and it has all the equipment to do the required sales. It has all the equipment to that complete that know and convert cycle. So after you found someone, you invite them to your home. You need to make sure that know and convert aspects are fully met in your home, we call them. And your home is your social presence. On the internet, your home, your Facebook or Instagram profile is not primarily your home. Your main home is your website. Of course, all the other places are also your homes, but you have to build your home first before you call anyone for any conversion or any sale or any collaboration to happen. To ensure that your website is in order, your social profiles are in order. And this is just an example, Google and other listings are also in order. So this is very basic things. There can be many more, but I'm just covering the most basic things and most important things. This is important for your brand to be showcased optimally, at least minimally, on the internet. Anybody should be able to find you, to know more about you, because there's a difference here. I mean, in an internet world, nobody comes and asks you questions. They end up going to your website or your home, and they they should be knowing things on their own, whatever is mentioned there. They are not going as compared to a physical meetup where if you give a business card of yours, they end up coming back to you asking the very same time that, okay, what do you do? Then you tell something, I do this, and then they ask you, okay, how and how many services you provide, how it is done, various things like that, right? So there's a conversation which happens in an offline world, which is happening right then and there. But in an online world, you will not find so many people coming back to you asking a lot about your service or your product again and again, right? If your website doesn't appeal, if that doesn't happen, if your social profile or your web presence doesn't appeal them, if it doesn't convey the right things properly, then you might have lost that customer. So this is non-negotiable to have a web presence for your business which is planning to go digital or has gone digital in today's world. This is non-negotiable. You have to have a home of yours. You cannot just run a business with only social profile, or you cannot just run a business with uh, only just a presentation sending up every time, right? There has to be a social. There should be discovery allowed. There should be some way to discover your business and find your business on the internet. So how do we do that? I'll take you through few steps of how we can really take steps to make sure that our business is represented digitally optimally. So there are certain steps we should be taking with respect to doing taking a business online, and these are uh, first step is to write your digital branding goals. I mean, there's a reason you're trying to showcase or brand your business on the digital world, and you have to have why are you wanting to do that. These are some examples, but it can be totally your own example, your own goal, which you can write. But it is important to have these in written generally, because then you don't end up losing your focus or losing your track later in time when you move ahead in this cycle of doing things. It is very common to see businesses. I mean, I do this every time, and I have seen with a lot of my clients and customers and people in general I meet that they start with all the enthusiasm, everything is done, but over the time, everything is for a toss. So I'll come to the next points, which will tell specifically what kind of things go for a toss, and that is why it is important to stay focused and make sure your goals are always in your mind. So this is something you should do first. The next, this is again a lot of businesses end up missing, and see these are not core branding activities. These are very general. I try to keep them very general and very generic with respect to uh, any business trying to showcase themselves. See, again, you are not there in if you are there, you're given a half an hour slot and you want to talk about your business, you can talk everything. But here your presence is on digital on internet, right? And you are not at all there to tell them. To be able to communicate right or showcase your business in the right light, you should be very clear about these things, because whoever comes or lands to your website, who should be able to know what are you really about. And nobody's going to be reading a lot of text on it. Nobody's going to be reading a lot of pages and pages of data on it, right? It has to be crystal clear and conveying. But to do that rightly, you should know who your customers are. It's very clear. This is just, again, this is not a definitive uh, template. This is just an indication. The point is to make that you have to know what your customers are, who are them, where can you find them, what kind of habits they have, what they do, what they want to end up buying from you, and things like that. The audience for your potential customers for your business. This is just an example. This is just to tell you that you should know, understand, and very well know about your customer base. Excuse me. And then another thing, define your story. This is very, very important again. So this is some amount of back some amount of work before you should be doing before you're going digital, before you're putting it up on the website or on social profiles. You should be understanding your business in a very, very well way. These activities are done much more in detail when on a typical branding assignment. But here I'm trying to just touch the surface and tell you very, very basic few steps which you should be doing to make sure that your business is showcased or branded. That kind of tells their story in such a way which adds to a lot of trust and credibility. If there are two shops next to each other, one is having this line, one is not having any line, it is highly likely that you'll go here, because this shop has been around for 100 years and they sell the same things. You know this is going to be more quality, this is going to be better for quality. I mean, anybody can go anywhere, it's not like that, it's definitive. But from your side, it does tell something more than just a name of that shop, right? So the same thing holds in the digital world. You have to tell the purpose. Why are you here? Why is your business? What is your business standing for? If you're doing something, if you're selling something, what is a bigger cause behind it? So that story adds to that trust and credibility of that you're not just there, just not you're just not the another player in the market in the same space. It does differentiates you in a big way from your competition. So that is why it's important to have this story. You have to define your story and then put it out. Okay, so I will give a small framework. This is a very well-known framework by Don Miller, and he's a well-known author and a marketing guru. So this is just a framework which you can probably follow in when you're communicating about your business uh, online. So just an example here. Say, okay, somebody asks you in an offline networking event or anywhere, somebody just asks you, "What do you do?" You can just say, "I provide financial services," just as an example. So just imagine what the next question comes. Okay, fine. What in financial services, right? So this can happen very well because you're talking to that person in person. Right? But when you are on your website, when you are on internet, he's not going to come back to you asking what else, or what else can you help me with, or how well can you do that, or how do you do it, right? So imagine if this was written like this. Most people can't uh, find their can't so the word is missing, can't find the heads around their financial future. So we created a financial map that puts all your info on a weekly dashboard, giving you peace of mind about your finances. So this is what I do. I do not just provide financial services, I do this, and this is much more clear and concise. What is it doing is essentially breaking into three lines. The first line is the problem I'm trying to tell, second line is a solution, and the third line is the success or the reward I'm giving about it. Okay, so always try to communicate your services or what you offer, or your, if you're a freelancer, if you're a business, anything, product or a service. Try to you're there to solve a problem. Every business there to solve a problem, right? And that's how the business runs. So there's a problem, there's a solution, and there's a success or a reward. You should be conveying everything very rightly. And again, in today's world, our attention spans are not more than 3 seconds or 2 to 3 seconds when we visit websites, when we visit pages. So everything has to be right in front, and further, it should be invoking certain action in the mind for the want of reading more. So if you're able to convey your business or your offering in a very concise manner like this, they would be clearly, the users who are the visitors, I will clearly know whether they want to read further about it or not. And then they end up delving deeper on your site or reading more about it. Excuse me. Another example. What do you do? We sell pet food. Again, just saying that pet food and inviting further questions, better than that would be pet owners are concerned about what their pets are really eating. So we source food from our trusted local vendors, which ensures your pet stays happy and healthy. If you see, the first line is the problem, the second line is the solution, the third line is the success or the reward. This is the way we should be really communicating things, because we are not there to answer them at every stage. And this just doesn't hold anywhere. I mean, everywhere you are trying to showcase your business in its own way. Try to completely answer whatever questions, whatever obvious questions the viewer can have in his mind. The more clear and concise you would be, the chances are higher that he will be interested more and more, and probably be clear whether he should be investing or spending more time on your site or reading more about your business or not. Just imagine something gets miscommunicated by because of the shortage of words it used on a headline of a site. You end up delving deeper. You spend another 10 minutes of yours reading about it, and then no, this is not something I was wanting. So this does not give a very good impression about the business, that they misled you by telling you something which you don't even want. If it is clearly told right up front, you would not spend more than a minute to spend on that particular page or a social media profile of that company. Another example, just for you to probably absorb this idea deeper. I sell used cars. What do you do? I sell used cars. Nobody likes to haggle with the car salesman, so we removed the salesman entirely. You can choose and test drive the car hassle free, so that you have a powerful experience getting the car you want. So the first line is the problem, the second is the solution, and the third is the reward. So this is the whole. Just probably take a minute to you can do that later. You can write about your business. What do you do? It's a very common answer. What do you do? I think you meet everywhere. Where you go, everywhere, everybody is going to be asking you, what do you do? So even in the digital world, when they come to your site or come to your home, they want to know what you do. That's the reason they come there in the first place. Tell them rightly, tell them in the best possible way. Do not leave them intrigued or be left with questions. I'll give you some few examples here. This is a bit on the visual of how visuals are important, or on when you're showcasing your business in the digital world, they are important. So of course, the core of your service or product is definitely important, but how you represent that is also very very important. Just imagine this shop in your neighborhood versus this shop. They both sell groceries, but or but the see the difference. I mean, if you see these two shops next to each other, where is it is more likely that you're going to be? Where it is more likely that the customer first gets attracted to this or this or even this. So that's all of them sell only fruits and only groceries. Yeah. But the difference is this. So that is why your visuals matter. Another example here, let's get to the digital. This is an older website of Apple's. This is just an example to show probably how older sites used to be built, how older websites were. There's so much of text and there's so much of things in it. The same Apple now does it like that. You see the difference? They're talking about one idea at a time, very clear, very crystal clear about what they want to speak, and they're not wanting you to read so much. They just put the right information in the right place, and you know right away what it is. So this is these are few of these strategies which you should be following. See, it takes about 7 to 13 touches. So I mean, when your business is on digital world, when your business is on the internet, a user does not go and just buy a safe. It's not like going in a shop and buying it. They want to experience and know more about your business or service or the product or service. It takes about 7 to 13 touches before they end up buying it, and touches can be in various forms. It can be seeing your ad, it can be seeing your website, it can be seeing your social media post, and other wherever you're active on the digital world. And when they see that again and again, that trust starts getting built in their mind. They end up uh, reading more about your business. They end up, if you write a blog about your business, for example, if you tell certain concepts, that's how you build trust. They don't know you, they're seeing you online, but you have to prove that. You have to show them that, yeah, you know your stuff, you're providing a service, that you know that service very well. So that is why it takes these pieces of content or pieces of these ads to reach your customers, and only after they've interacted with your brand in a certain way, after many touch points, only they end up buying it. So make sure this funnel or this kind of nurturing is very well there. It's all around. It should be very identifiable. So if you see this presentation right now, so my brand colors are, say, red. My brand color is red, and there's a gradient red. If you see, I'm trying to the entire presentation is trying to keep that, just for the reason of recall. I'm trying to keep those uh, visuals, colors in place here, because it is important that by looking at it somewhere, which brand are we talking to, and whether it's professional enough a brand, or whether they can do good for us or not. So that's why it's important to be consistent all around. You have to align your digital strategies in the best possible way. This is again just to be how to stay visually consistent. Again, these are not definitive list. This is not something which we should be doing everything, but these are just a list which kind of tells you to keep some consistency across your brand. I'll take an example later after this, and I've given you some tools here in the bottom which help you do that. I'll come to that in a while. But if you see a particular type of color palette or a particular type of formats of logo or a certain font used everywhere, every time your brand's presence is seen on, say, whether it be on a post on Instagram, whether it be a ad run on Google, or whether it be your website, it has to be consistent. It adds to a lot of recall there. It should be everybody, by looking at it in a certain way, over a time will now start recognizing that, okay, I've seen this before. Okay, this is the brand this is the product I was looking for. This is the business in question about. So this is how your brand gets deeper in the minds of people. So without spending a penny here, it's basically trying to just showcase your business in the best possible way with respect to the visuals with which it is represented. So even it goes to the extent of even the language or the communication we use. It can, if you might be using a friendly, if you're posting on LinkedIn, you might use a little formal language, but the core of your brand has to have has to set up a certain brand voice or a brand tone. If your business is say selling kids games, then you have to be very fun loving. You have to sound very friendly and fun loving, right? If your business is selling sales tools, then it has to be formal. It should be more B2B offering. It should be more formal. But your uh, brand has to communicate that consistently all across. It's very commonly seen that this is one step where brands fail when they start with a lot of a lot of enthusiasm, but over after like a couple of years, after a few months, they end up they end up losing this part, where they don't keep up to their brand colors, they don't keep up to their styles, they don't keep up the definitions they did. But where it makes all the difference in today's crowded internet world, where there's lots and lots of businesses coming across, to stand out visually, you have to have this done. Of course, the core of your business is important, as I said before, but to get the first attention, it's important to make it very visually pleasing. These are some tools, which is Canva. You might have heard of it. Adobe Spark or Stencil. These are some free tools. They are free versions, good enough for a business, for you to go through some ready-made templates and gets your gets your job done in a very quick manner. So I mean, as a professional, I mean, we do end up using Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop kind of tools, because that's more comprehensive branding activity. But here, for you want to use, these are fairly good. They serve all the purpose here. You can just go through and sign up for a free account, and end up using them. You'll see thousands of templates in these to be able to uh, uh, use them for your business. This is an example. This is an old Yahoo site. This is how it is. So see the amount of see what do you want to do. Everything seems same here. I mean, you do not you will look at it, and then you'll have to really search your way through. Okay, what's where? What I'm going to be doing here compared to this. The same site with the same amount of that much content, but see how visually it is represented. How this hierarchy, the visual hierarchy is maintained, how that brand colors and the brand consistency is maintained. It just makes everything much more organized and much more better looking. Like, you will know where to look for. Here, you will not be able to find what I look. You have to read through everything, and it's a lot of more task to really figure out what you want to do. But here, it's much more consistent, much more clear, much more visually pleasing, easier to find. You have to spend less time to find the thing you're looking for. Again, do not ignore your website. See, your website is most important out of the things I told you in the early days, in the early this presentation, is because, see, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all these are platforms where your brand presence is there, but these are not owned by you. You never know, this sudden change in these algorithms change every day. This sudden change in a policy for Instagram someday, and your content goes for a toss. You don't know whether whatever you place there is not your own. It's very clearly written in their policy that your content is not it is owned by these platforms, right? So it is always better to have your own website, because that is where you can control it. You want to show it in a certain way. You want to make sure your brand is seen in a certain light, and you have the full control over it. You don't know tomorrow your everything changes, and tomorrow your certain way you want to present your services or product as it will not change on your website, because it's in your hands. On a Facebook, you never know, there's a layout change happens in their pages, and something goes up and down. You don't know that. So that's why it's important to have one place. So have one home, which is your website, because that's in your control. Keep it fully under your control. All the other things are important and necessary, but you should not be depending on them so much that if tomorrow one change happens, then your business goes upside down. So that is why it's important to have your home, which should be your website. And if you realize everything you do, all the marketing activities, or all the finding leads, or finding people, or meeting people you do, everything comes back to your website. If you run an ad, if you click on a post, ultimately you want them to read more about your business, and you take them to your site. This is inevitably happening. If you do an email marketing campaign, every email is going to be taking back them to your site, or your landing page, right? Even if you're giving them in an offline networking event, if you give anybody your business card, what does your business card contain? Your name, your designation, your website, and your contact number, right? Ultimately, they will have to go through the website and read more about you, because the sale is not going to be happening right there and then in an offline networking event as well, right? And offline networking events are, as it is, not happening nowadays, and it's going to be reducing over time, as we know. I hope things get better over time, but at least now they're not happening. So it's important to align your communication on various channels on the internet, make sure your home is in place. Again, these are just some to dos which you should have in a business website. Having established the fact that a website is the thing, you have to have your home in place before you invite a guest. Make sure these things are definitely there in a website, because again, they're not going to be there to, they're not coming back to ask you a question. Okay, I want to know more about your team, can you tell me? And the team section is say missing on the site, or a testimonial is missing. How can you prove them that? You can't tell them, right? I helped so and so customers and he's gained so much from it, right? So you have to have all these things without a miss. I mean, some things may not be relevant. See, pricing may not be relevant here, but I mean, these are like, this is like about 6 things which should be there in most of the sites. You can always remove and add as per your business specifically also, but it is important. Especially the first part is most important, which is a clear headline about your offering and CTA. So that's where probably that 3 part one liner problem which I explained earlier might help, um, because as soon as they come on your website, the first fold which is going to be really proving them whether they want to read more or not. You have to be very clear about your offering. You're really clear about your problem and your solution and the reward you provide. And there should be a CTA of how to contact you. There should be if they like it, they want to probably directly get in touch with you without reading more. There should be a direct call to action. It can be call me, it can be message me, it can be email me, it can be anything, but it should be there. These are few websites. These are like, just I've just put some world leaders here in terms of making simple websites. WordPress is something which you already know of already. Most of you would probably know of it. But there are other things like Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, and there's a GoDaddy Builder and so many things. These are DIY simple editor, simple tools. So taking a website is taking, even if you are non-technical or if not at all aware of any technicalities, it is a cakewalk to get your website up and running now with these tools. They're like drag and drop editors, very highly intuitive, and you just have to go and sign up, and they have extensive tutorials to help you with respect to bringing a site online. But again, these are just enabler tools. What I'm trying to tell you with the whole presentation is what to put is more important than getting a site. You can't just pick a template and make it live like that. You have to make sure the communication which goes in is having some credibility with respect to your business, is ensuring these points are covered, is ensuring that your digital presence is represented in the best possible way. And some things are very important here with respect to this. I've really handpicked these 5 tools, or there can be more. You have to be very sure about speed of loading. There should be clear navigation. Navigation, when I say, there should be a top navigation menu or a side navigation menu, has to have everything. If they want to read directly about your pricing, they should be able to find that pricing word there. They don't see only your testimonial, they should be able to find that there clearly. It should not be hidden, or it should not be like to really do some exercise to find that. Everything is to be mobile friendly. More than 60% of the sites are visited mobile. If you however good site you have on the web, if it is not good in mobile, it means some lost business for sure. SEO analytics is important, but this is more technical, but it is definitely needed, because to be able to find your site, there's no point having a site which only nobody can really find. So that's why these tools do these tools do provide all of this, and you have to just figure out and read out through the help a little bit. But that's why I put these names here, that they are like kind of full inclusive tools of, and they are free tools. They have a free version also, most of them. You have to have a clear uh, strategy in place. Whatever points we discussed before has to be in place before you're going to be putting out your site out. Speed of loading is very important again, because if again attention spans are very slow, if the site doesn't load in 5 seconds, nobody's going to really bother looking at it. So make sure that it's loading fast. All the pages are loading fast in that, and these tools to help with that. A little bit getting into the social, that was the website bit. uh, Again, now come to the other part of your digital presence, which is the social media. So again, there are so many channels. They're like mainstream about 5 or 6 channels today, but it is not necessary that you have to be on all the channels. You have to make sure that your brand is adequately represented on few channels, if not all, right? Generally it's called, the way the strategies are, there can be one primary channel. Say your brand is a certain B2C brand, or certain brand who wants to, in that case Instagram is the best choice for you, because your content is more visual in nature and you want to have show pictures and videos. So you end up having the Instagram as your primary channel, but your secondary channel should also be there, not just one. You should not depend only on one, because your presence on the internet is important. If you have a secondary channel as Facebook, uh, then you never know that a person might find you on Facebook and end up reaching your site and end up reaching your home, end up reaching more about you, right? And maybe Facebook can lead them to the Instagram. And not everyone is on every channel also, right? Some people might be off Facebook now, so in that case, Instagram only works, or it's the other way around. So, uh, so it also depends on what kind of content you're showing. If you're showing more of videos, more of pictures, then Instagram is the place. If you're showing more of text-based or knowledge-based sharing, then Twitter may be a good choice. If it's more of thought leadership type of content, more of writing, then probably LinkedIn is a good choice. And also depends on the business. If you're a B2C brand, then you end up maybe using more Instagram. If you're more of a B2B brand, you end up most of LinkedIn. This is the link here, which is a very popular, and it's updated. This is a free uh, thing, which is very helpful to figure out what kind of people hang out where. So this is going to be really helping you to decide which platforms I should be. Whether my potential, again, you answered that question before, that who your customers are, where they hang out, what they do. Once you know your customers deep enough, now when you see this link, you will know what where I should be, whether my particular age group customers are hanging out on this particular social channels or not. So this is going to be super helpful, and this keeps updating. This is a free report by Sprout Social. These are some demographics, and this is a very valuable resource. You can note this, and you can maybe um, use this for your business. Again, the same thing holds for social. When you go, like the way you did for your website, you have to have the same social goals in your mind. Why are you here? Why are you there on a particular social platform? You are there to build trust, either to generate leads or to get more customers, or anything. These are just some examples. You can just be there to increase your brand awareness. You can just be there to educate people about your brand, about your certain industry. It can be anything. Be very clear about this. One mistake that people do is just to start posting random stuff without thinking. No, we should be very clear about what are we there for. Every post and every strategy of yours on the social media should be directing to that goal. It is very important. Write this on paper and make sure you do that, because this is something which will help you not go haywire over a course of time, and not to make your brand seem that it doesn't know, or it is going a little away from the goal. It should be very strongly communicating the values, the goals you're trying to communicate. Then you have to create branded content always, because if you see I told you about the style guide before, certain ways to represent your brand, certain colors, certain tones, certain language, certain uh, fonts to be used in consistently all across. This is the same thing. When you're using these kind of standardized posts for your brand, the recall is very high. Things People are scrolling through their feeds and through their walls very fast. So if you have a consistent branded style or branded visuals, eyes stop at that, and people get attracted to that. People get to know that that's your brand talking. So the recall gets much higher, and that's why it's important to have the style guide and having at least have basic visual followed. You can keep it very simple. There's no need of very highly complex designs. You can keep it very simple, and I think simple is going very well nowadays. People want to keep their things simple, because there's a lot of information flowing around, and the simpler you keep it, the better it is for your brand. Always create a relevant custom and a relevant and custom based content. An example would be, if you sell shoes, you might want to probably post about uh, clothes which go with that particular type of shoe. That is relevant, because your clothes are worn with the shoes. But on the other hand, if you want to post about gen sets someday, about some news about gen, that doesn't make sense, because you're selling shoes. What does gen sets have to do with that, right? So that's why it's important to be very relevant with respect to your audience, with respect to your content. And content types can be various. If you're whatever you're comfortable with. If you're some people are camera shy, don't want to get in front of videos, that's fine. You can maybe express in the form of images, or express in the form of blogs, right? Even podcasts are big now. So choose the content type you are most comfortable with. Choose the content type where your customers resonate most with. Choose the content type which is most relevant for your industry and your business. Try to pick that content type and be consistent with it all around. It can be a combination of more than one. It can be a combination of graphics and videos and blogs and all everything. But be the aim is that be very clear about it. Be very consistent with it, and only pick something which you're comfortable doing. If you can't write very well, don't choose blogs. But if you want to write well, you choose blogs. If you're camera shy, don't choose videos. But you may end up, trying out things and give away that fear of camera over time. But yeah, you can do the thing, pick the thing that you do best. uh, just to end with, I would like to say consistency. So 65 or 70% of the businesses end up doing these things over time. They stop doing these things over time, sorry. And they lose their track in middle. So they are like, okay, am I investing at the business? Who cares about who's going to spend time, designing things or probably branding things in a certain way, or communicating or putting an effort on so much communication in a certain way. But no, you're in for the longer game here. Make sure, as I said, it takes 7 to 13 touch points for the user to really end up buying your product or service. Make sure, and you're not there to tell them at every stage. They're not going to be reaching out to you at every stage. So there has to be self-sufficient communication, and that is very important for your business to be seen in the right light when it is showcased digitally. So be sure that you follow these steps, you follow these rules consistently, make sure everything's set up, and it's not just like it just likes a good idea. Everything is backed. There's a reason of why you're doing it. Everything is backed with goals you're trying to achieve. Whether it be a website, there is a goal. Whether it be a social media strategy, there's a goal. Whether it be a listing on Google or any other platform, it is a goal to be there. It cannot be so open like I just want to get business. Everybody wants to get business, but still be very specific of what are you trying to do with that particular medium. Just an example I gave here. I mean, that one-liner problem, I put it here. From this has gone a little longer in my case, but again, if you read this is like first part is the problem, the second part is the solution, and the third part is the reward I provide. So this is how you should be really, focusing on your. This is the first thing when you probably go on my site. Also, this is the first thing which I show, because this kind of tells the users whether they want to read further or not, whether there's something they're looking for or not with my company, with me. So that's why it's important to have a clear communication, have it very clearly laid out everywhere on all your social homes, everywhere.